Good now, good evening, and good day to you all. We invite you to picture, if you will, the moment that time as you know it, or the concept of time as you know it, began to exist, it being one of the first, or the first, concept for if time was linear and not circular, this would require a point disconnected from all other points in which it could commence. And it being the first point, it would be void of any content in the way you currently believe time to be, filled with content or saturated with content of infinite variability. And we invite you to place yourself in this moment of the beginning of time, void of all content. As you observe this no content container and observe yourself within the container of no content in that moment, that individual moment of the commencement of time, we propose to you the question, if there is no content, how is it you are able to observe the contentless in this first appearance of linearity? And as you sit with this reflection, we expect that your preciously clever minds will begin to come to conclusions or suppositions that your true nature, having the ability to observe what is so fundamentally empty, must be the container itself. Or the fact that you are able to observe what you imagine to be the beginning of time must mean that time is indeed not linear, simultaneously solid and gaseous, liquid, that you in your mind voyaging to this point or this moment must mean that that point or moment is included in this herein. Breaking through the illusion of time automatically allows you to break through the illusion of space, allows you to access more fully the only perception of time that can exist for you, which is the eternal now. And it frees you completely from past and future, allowing you infinite capability and choice. For if you can imagine that first moment, you can likewise imagine this moment, which is indeed what you are doing in each and every moment. You have the ability, the natural ability, to choose and choose and choose, and the infinite freedom and blessings to do so. I'd love to know what it is you are choosing in this now, how it is you would like to create this present moment, what it is you would have us say as a reflection of what it is you would want to hear. And at this time, which is the beginning of all time, we have eternal joy in inviting any and all questions.
Thank you. My question is, why does it seem, or why does it appear that there are more intense times, let's say emotionally or in one day, than others? And I asked this specifically since, for instance, today I had the experience of feeling really devastated, and then crying, releasing, and then I had like an epiphany, and I had this all throughout the day. And I'm curious if you could share on what happens there.
You are choosing a particular trajectory that you have expectations of. You were not devastated. You were not joyous. Devastation was a label that you gave to energy passing through your system. Joy is a label that you gave to energy passing through your system. The energy is always equal, for you are energy. It is appearing in its various forms, choosing to separate the various forms into categories, highlights the categories you have assigned to them. And this is not to say that the energy is not potent or that you do not have your ways of reacting to energy, which you do. You should honor those. But as you begin, if you choose to remove labels and experience the actual moment of the energy, in this case, emotional energy, passing through you as the now, as the all that is, as the this moment is, the perception of the turbulence or how much you will get knocked off course by this turbulence will become lessened. You will be able to feel exactly the same emotions and have exactly the same reactions with a level of, we do not like the word detachment, for you cannot be detached from anything that is, but from a level of perhaps comfort or maturity. And again, we do not like the word maturity, for it has implications, but a level of comfort within the discomfort, honoring that discomfort and acknowledging how beautiful any of the range, any experience is, with gratitude and appreciation for the simple fact that you have the ability to feel anything, and not in comparison to perhaps one that one would see who does not seem to have the ability to feel their emotions, but with the reverence and awe of the mechanism itself that allows feelings to exist in the first place. And we have discussed in the past what use, what absolute fundamental function your emotions have in guiding you to more of yourself. We sense that there is some self-criticism with your more turbulent days. You believe that it should not be as it is, or you should be more balanced, perhaps, or consistent in your emotional range. However, we assure you that all energy is of equal value and beauty, and it is your choice to have been self-created in the fashion that you are for very specific reasons, known to you and perhaps some not known yet to you. This, like many things, we suggest taking with a light touch, not labeling on top of the labels your more movemented days as something negative. They are not. You are doing much work in the direction that you want to be headed in. And this is reflected in your emotional reactions to your experience. You are making steps forward and double checking with yourself via your emotions as to whether or not those steps coincide with the new beliefs that you would like to have about yourself and this world, and are in the process of implementing that. We say, feel your emotions. That is the way through.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What is the DNA and its function in the evolution of the consciousness or knowing the true self?
As you come to arrive in material form, there's the necessity for the creation of the vessel, the physical vessel. It is based upon what you have discovered to be DNA. However, your science has not discovered all there is on this topic, but indeed, DNA is the codification of the material form to meet the characteristics or specifications required by the what you would call soul before entering into this playground that you call humanity. And as you discover more with your science that there are switches and levers that are turned on and off that then seem to coincide with certain characteristics and seem to coincide with functionality, you will discover more and more that your bodies are very similar to all other forms of technology that you have discovered. Your technology, your computers, are based upon mathematics, as are your physical vehicles, complex mathematics, complex programming on both physical and mental planes. And indeed, DNA is alterable. It is both alterable via external or what you believe to be external physical factors, as well as internal factors. One can alter their own DNA if they so choose, and if this is relevant to their path. But we remind you that as your knowledge on this topic is still so limited, that presently even the most brilliant minds on the subject are light years behind, excuse us, where you would need to be to make significant alterations on a physical level that were not damaging. For it would be like a small child opening up a computer casing and taking a magnet and running it back and forth across some of the chips, closing the casing and hoping to have made alterations that it so chose. A far more efficient way to alter the DNA would be to turn on the operating system and from within recode. This is the difference between a physical alteration of DNA and a alteration of DNA that occurs based upon consciousness. It is simply the blueprint. If you change the blueprint, you change the building. And you are the architect. Was there more on this topic?
No, thank you very much. That was very much clarifying on the subject.
Thank you. It is difficult to express how your physical vehicles are so fundamental and yet completely unimportant, in the same way that your personality is so fundamental and yet completely unimportant. One can walk the tightrope between significance and insignificance with a small umbrella and perhaps a monkey on your shoulder. And this would still be a preferable position to put oneself in, as opposed to falling off on either side of this rope. For the moment you give significance to any aspect, either of creation or what is beyond, you are allowing yourself to become clouded, confused, and you are depriving yourself of the other aspects of creation and what is beyond creation that are so beautiful. And the moment you discount anything as insignificant, you are doing likewise. So perhaps life is that journey of walking the tightrope with your monkey and your umbrella and maintaining that balance and learning to enjoy the view.
My question is, what is really going on when something called miracles happen.
Would you like to define a miracle?
Something that we cannot explain.
Would
That
you
maybe
define?
someone is very sick and all of a sudden gets cured.
There's very little you can actually explain. Can you explain why your heart is beating?
No.
Is this not a miracle?
Yes.
In the very same way that your heart beats within your chest, one can suddenly no longer have the relevance of the sickness within their life. In the same way that the ocean's waves touch the shore, a statue can cry blood. In the same way, your earth continues to orbit with mathematical precision, and should it not, there would be immediate destruction of all that exists for you. One can win the lottery. The question is not, can you explain miracles? It's, can you explain how anything is not? And the answer is no. There is not a single experience that you can have which is not a miracle. There's not a single thought, interaction, perception that is not a miracle. And these miracles that you give weight to perhaps record you or remind you that miracles are indeed all around you, but at times they also distract you from the reverence, gratitude, appreciation, and pure love that you feel when you do realize that all that is a miracle. If one is cured, it is because they were meant to experience the curing, or and those around them were meant to experience the curing, perhaps specifically to ask this question, and perhaps specifically to have this answer. We do not say there are no miracles. We say exactly the opposite, that it all is. It's all infused with the same light, energy, love, God, whatever you would like to call it, and perfectly, perfectly arranged, releasing into that, knowing, allows you to live a life of miracles. Then you are untouched by anything that could possibly ever seem that it was not. We are pleased that you have had your miracles. There is no need to be shy. We have this experience regularly. Perhaps we are not entertaining enough. We thought that the monkey and the umbrella was a very nice image. We are very personable. We are not a person, or perhaps we are not. It is not for us to say.
Hello.
Hello.
Basically, my question is, are we living in a holographic universe, in a holographic world? Is every single concept a creation? Is, like the concept of a spirit guide, the concept of an angel, your collective consciousness? Is everything seen through our eyes and is created from within us?
Yes, absolutely everything. This is why we are grateful for your participation in these meetings. We would not exist should you not join or perceive. It does, this realization does hold the weight of knowing that one is what one would then perceive of as completely alone. However, it also holds the jewel of the knowing that one can never be alone, for all that is all that one is. You are not a person. You are perceiving yourself to be a person. We are not external to you. We are simply projected as external to you for the means and desires that you hold. You do have a collective agreement with yourself to play a game where you believe other selves to be separate to you or to be real or independent of themselves. But if you can, at times or perhaps regularly, recall that this is not the case, that in fact, all that you do see, all that you do experience is you, then even when you are experiencing what seems as external or even advice, let's say, of this format, you can then play the game simultaneously with the imaginary otherness and the knowing that in the end, all that is arriving to you is simply stimulus from which you may choose what it is you would like to extract and what it is you would not like to extract. Everything is available, every experience is valid because every experience that you could possibly ever have is you. This is also why when one sees reflected in the world something that they do not wish to see reflected, they may choose to not see that thing, or they may choose to look at that thing and understand what it means about the, as you called it, holographic experience that they have chosen, which then is not personal because it is all collectively agreed upon. This is a paradox. We are speaking at several levels at once and are not sure if it is comprehensible in the way that we are describing.
Yes. Yes, I get it. It's like crazy, but to think about it, and we're actually playing a game, as you said several times.
Yes, which is why we suggest to enjoy it.
Okay, I'll try. I will. Thank you.
Good.
Can you explain what deja vu is again? I forgot if I've asked before.
You have.
Is it would you like to share again or no? Now I get the joke. Oh my god. It took a while. Oh my god, no. Okay.
We appreciate the question because it is a valid question for understanding. It does tie back into our conversation earlier about time and how time is not linear, how it is spherical and yet not even spherical, for it is not contained to a form of matter. It is all. Your perception of deja vu is you tapping into other parts of your timeline, but it is not a timeline, and therefore it is you actually creating the perception of you tapping into another timeline in this timeline. It is a bit circular in this way. You are accessing perhaps a recall of this moment in this moment because you believe that you have something to extract from this moment again. However, all time is simultaneous. So you are eternally in this moment. It is a hiccup, but it is created by you. So the answer would be, what is deja vu to you? And listen to the session in which you asked this, which is this one, and also another. We were being a little bit cryptic. It is very entertaining.
When you were speaking on emotions earlier, I was reminded of an experience I've had where I was watching a movie and it was very climactic, and I felt a swelling of some emotion, and I actually went into a nap in the middle of a show. And I didn't really know what to do with this built up energy in me. I took a nap, and in this nap I experienced like such a interesting experience in my heart center, and it was like I had entered a portal, and somehow like the heart had transformed this energy that was once unpleasant and scary and contracting and uncomfortable. It was like it had transformed it into euphoria and into a heavenly experience. And I'm curious if you can explain more about that?
It is what we talked on earlier. All energy is equal. And so you made a new choice on what to do with the energy that was moving through you. It was not necessary that you accepted the proposed initial reaction. And so you had the opportunity to be presented with yourself, by yourself, an alternative. And the alternative was to feel differently about, or not even about, just feel differently in that moment than the feelings or emotions that were coming up, which you believed were being stimulated by an external source. You can always choose differently. The energy is the same. It is the interpretation of the energy which shifts. When you are feeling an emotion, sadness or anger or joy, the charge, the energy behind it, is not in itself sadness or joy. It is simply energy, in the same way that your body is simply energy. What happens is you have learned to interpret the energy and, as we said, give it labels that you then believe you have to react to, or you imagine that it is the stimulus that creates the energy when in fact it is you yourself that is creating that energy to give you the space and time to be able to make the changes within yourself that you are wanting to make in that moment. So perhaps you see something violent on television and your initial reaction is recoil and agitation or fear. In reality, there are billions of other cells who watch exactly the same thing on television and do not have the reaction of recoil or agitation. Perhaps when they were children, they understood more carefully that television is not quote unquote real. Perhaps they did not have certain traumas that they can relate back to that program. Or perhaps simply they are not as sensitive to certain content. However, the choice to interpret the energy that flows through you as agitation and recoil, and not simply this is energy flowing through me in this moment, is what makes it very uncomfortable, only because one then has a perception of what those emotions mean. So you have decided that fear is bad, and therefore you avoid fear. You have decided that pain is bad, you avoid pain. You have decided that sadness is bad, you avoid sadness. However, these are all natural aspects of your human experience, no different than any of the other aspects. If they were embraced in the same way, they would not be avoided, they would pass and have their functions, do what it is they were meant to do, and release from your system sooner. You, in that moment, chose differently. Your body or your higher self or your mind complex or your personality asked you to sleep, which is a state of reset in itself, and chose differently. Simply, perhaps, to show you that there is no reason not to.
Should these teachings be passed on to our kids? Is it safe for their experience? Or do they need to play the game freely?
It is not unsafe, and they do need to play the game freely. But if they have chosen you as their mother and it resonates for you to share what it is you are learning, then that is part of them playing the game freely. Your free will is also part of the game. And as we discussed earlier, your children do not actually exist outside of your perception of them. Therefore, you do have some liberties. And within the game, they will themselves be able to express to you what is or what is not applicable to them or relevant to them. They will show you with their interest. No teaching should be passed on to a child as the truth, for no teaching is the truth. And you may use your discernment. If something excites you to share, then you may share. However, we will say again that it is not unsafe, for nothing can be unsafe. Everything will and is always occurring exactly as it should be, including your participation in it, including the impulses that you have to share or not share. If you are following your own inner guidance and not anything that we or anyone else would say, then you will know, for the individuals or illusion of individuals that you are talking about what is right for them in each successive now. It is also not necessary because, as you said, they are free to play the game as they would so choose. And it being a fractal universe, you are simply a messenger in their perception. They are also the point of consciousness that is all that is. And you do not exist independent of them. Therefore, anything that you can deliver to any other self from this knowing that there is no other self also nullifies your own existence, because in the perception of each other self, you are simply a messenger for what is to occur in their perception. It may feel that you are real, and on one level, you are, but on many, many other levels, you do not exist, and you are not real. So allow the dance of the universe to dance through you, because that is what you are doing anyway. And it is brief. It is a flash of light. And in the end, it is all reabsorbed with complete understanding, and there is no end.
Thank you.
Thank you. We are excited for your upcoming chunk of time, illusory time, which you will perceive of as your now. There is much joy to be had and fortitude to accumulate. We are already so much in awe of the expansion that has been accelerated in what you perceive of as your recent past. This expansion will continue. We spoke recently of choosing one's catalyst carefully. We spoke of making sure that one chooses to change before change is necessary, if only to have what you claim to want. However, if you truly wanted that, it would occur independent of us expressing this to you. Perhaps these expressions are a permission slip for you to decide to make that small change in your life, or that large change in your life that you have always wanted to, or that you have felt would be good or would feel good to you. Now is the time to take that action, that self-guided action, because you know what you want and you can have it. There's nothing preventing you, and you will have it regardless. We can only suggest the more comfortable road. We will meet with you again soon. We send you all of our love and the light of 1,000 suns. Nine, nine.